Well, for one thing, if you've ever been to Israel and you get into a taxi, that's when the criticism begins with the taxi driver. If you get bored with that argument, and by the way, I would listen more carefully to the taxi drivers than the politicians. If you get bored, you can go to their Knesset or their parliament where they're screaming at each other 6 days a week. Thank God for the Jewish Sabbath when it's closed. And if you get bored with that, just turn on the TV to the multitude of stations that there are, or pick up a newspaper. So criticizing Israeli policies is a national blood sport of Israel. You know, the old saying where you have 2 Jews and 3 opinions, it's true in our diaspora, it's true in Israel. Criticism is not the issue. Attacking the idea of Israel, attacking the legitimacy of Jewish destiny that includes a return to a land we've been connected to for 3,500 years, when you say you don't have a right to be there, that constitutes crossing the line. It's double standard. It's delegitimizing a sovereign state. It's demonizing Jews everywhere. And that's part of the problem, the big problem, you know, that we have. You know, most people don't know that around the United States and across Europe, for probably the last 30 years, you can't get into a synagogue without going through security. That's not true of any church or any temple or any mosque. I hope not. But let's say in Frankfurt, I went to the front desk of the hotel when I was staying there on a Shabbat, and I asked the lady at the front desk, how do I get to the synagogue? She said, oh, I'll show you. She took me outside and said, you go down to that third light, see that green light there? You make a right, and when you see the half track and the soldiers, that's the synagogue. That's the reality for people everywhere. Jewish people just we celebrate midst of our high holy days. That is a part of our reality all over the diaspora, from Australia to Canada to the Americas, and certainly across Europe. It's a sad fact of life that there's always some group, whether it's the Islamist terrorists or it's neo-Nazis, as in Sweden, or just thugs, that see an opportunity to attack Jews. And you might say, well, I mean, where do they get all of it? We're in the era of social media. So the hatred now is 24/7. And as you know, you can mass market your ideas to groups, to age groups, et cetera, et cetera. And right now, you know, the evildoers, if you will, in the world have never had a better marketing capability, free of any government interference, than social media. And we have to deal with the consequences.
Rabbi Cooper, you know, talking about anti-Semitism, I was recently reading this new report by the Jewish Institute for Liberal Values. They were looking at, you know, critical social justice ideology, which critical race theory is a part of, and they see it as this ideology as something that's actually fueling anti-Semitism in, you know, all these national centers that we've been just describing. What do you think about that?
Okay, so we have a number of swamps that have to be drained when you talk about anti-Semitism. You have the Islamists, Muslim Brotherhood, Saudis seem to be going in the right direction. The Iranians are another source of it. You have the neo-Nazis in far right, and not so neo-Nazis in places, you know, like Germany and Austria. These are live and, again, thriving off of social media and finding new recruits. And then you have here in the States, of course, you have the far right extremists, including neo-Nazis. And you have people in the, I guess you might call it political left, or you have members of Congress now who use the safety net of being a member of Congress in order to promote anti-Semitic tropes. It's the Benjamin's baby, you know, stuff that's just not true about Israel, that can be that's put up on a tweet and maybe is not removed. You know, you have now within that political and social and cultural milieu open anti-Semites with no price to pay, quite the contrary. And, we've urged Nancy Pelosi and Democratic leaders to take the necessary steps that we've urged Republicans to do when they've had some of their folks going off the rails, and that has not yet happened. And it's a source of very, very deep concern. So we have from progressives, we have from the far right, we have Islamists, and you have, again, the lone wolves, which is something that in the 21st century is an inspiration and a product of the internet and of social media. So we have our hands full, besides the terrorists, who want to reconstitute themselves from Al-Qaeda or ISIS. No problem. Just signal the Muslim world that we're going to help the Palestinians liberate Al-Aqsa as if it's under occupation. So we have a wide array of enemies. And I think the best advice about how to begin to fight all of this was given by no one less than Natan Sharansky when he was talking to young Jews, former head of the Jewish Agency, great human rights icon, the Soviet era. He said, look, it's not our job to tell young people whether they should be conservatives or they should be progressives, like Democrats, Republicans, left or right. That's not our job. But what we can tell them is that when they see or hear an anti-Semitic incident, act, or statement spewed forth from their own camp, they have a responsibility to be the ones to speak out first. It's easy to rag on the opposition. See, we told you. Look at those crazy, conservatives, or look at what do you expect from leftists. That's not the way to defeat anti-Semitism. You have to show some courage. And I have to say that more and more, as some of these anti-Zionist tropes become embedded in part of the left, that more and more progressive Jewish parents who see it playing out against their kids in public school and in private school are speaking out, are organizing, and are saying is that you can't dictate what to Linda Sarsour, for example, who elected you to be the gatekeeper for who can be a progressive and who couldn't be a progressive. Anybody who demands of anyone else that they offload their own identity in order to be a member of the club, I don't care what religion or nationality you are, run, do not walk, run away from that. And in short order, I mean, if you want to talk about woke and cancel culture, we're all about counsel culture, not cancel culture. If you want to talk about Jewish values, we're in the days of repentance, of reflecting on our deed. There are no perfect specimens. We don't believe in saints to begin with. We're all flawed in how we behave. The question is, how do we do the day after we make a mistake? Do we learn from it? Do we move forward?